Well, hello to you, and every blessing is wished for you. Um, I thought that it was about time that we had a little chat again, and there's so many things, aren't there, that we think about in any given 5 minutes of the day. And of course, that's not to forget how many people are lying there worrying when they're supposed to be asleep at night. And how do we cope then with misery? And it seems to be exacerbated by materialism. You know, everybody wants something, and nobody has got suddenly better because they're suffering. Um, but I was wondering how you were getting on. I know how I'm getting on. Of course, we all know it individually ourselves, our own little story, and all of us have got things that we have to cope with. And, when you look at it sort of generally, I suppose you can say, well, you start from the very minor irritations in life and move up to the huge tragedies. But for each of us personally, what we feel is very valid, and there is no sliding scale for us. And, you know, everything that we feel, every upset and worry that we have is very, very important to us as individuals. And even if it doesn't seem as important to the next person, or on the statistics that we're always getting bombarded with now, because of this awful virus, the airwaves and newsprint is taken up very much with the whole pandemic, and has been for over a year now. And how the human race has even managed to survive that onslaught, without all of us going completely balmy, is another thing. So, how do we cope with this bombardment of basically a misery? And of course, coupled with that is also this upsurge all around us of materialism, which I'm sort of identifying as all the advertising that we get that seems to have proliferated, and all these sort of get rich quick gambling adverts. They don't talk about the added misery of losing, um, the alcohol beverages. They're pushing their wares, as are all other, medications that are over-the-counter products that you can go and buy. And really and truly, we are absolutely being bombarded with it. So, how do we actually manage to find our peace in all of that? Well, I suppose what you can do is, of course, do what I'm always advocating, and that is have a good pray first thing in the morning and last thing at night. Well, sort of when you lie down and when you rise up, just say a little prayer to yourself of thankfulness, no matter what's going on. And of course, what you can do as well in this sad times that we're in is also ask for yourself to be given some help, some healing help from above. And if you are not particularly of the spiritual type person, and think that perhaps you don't know if anybody's listening to you or not, you can always ask the universe, or the next tree, or whatever you can focus upon. It really matters not, because the people that really matter, our loved ones in spirit, and even God Almighty, will hear what you have to say, regardless of where you think it's being directed. So, ask for yourself for some healing. And those of us who are spiritualists and who understand that there are guides and helpers and people of great abilities over in the realms of light that stand by to help us. And those of us who follow Jesus himself know that he is also there listening and waiting to help. Just ask for yourself for some healing for yourself. Then for the next person that you care about, that you want to have healing for. And if you think that's strange that you should be asking for yourself, remember the drill that is always given safety first, for instance, in aircraft, where they say, if there's a depressurization of the cabin, which is urgent, and and the oxygen masks drop down, you put your mask on yourself first, and then you help the next person to you to put theirs on, because you have to help yourself first in order to be able to help other people. So ask for healing for yourself. Ask for whatever you need, whether it's a bad arm, whether you've got a pain in your back, whatever ails you. Ask for that first, and then ask for everybody else that you can think of. Put their names up there, out there, so that those who love us can act upon that. And that really does help. And on top of that, when you do then start to go about your daily business, you'll find that it feels that much lighter. Your step will be that much lighter, and your heart will feel a little more light. And so that's one way of coping with how I mentioned in my blurb. How do people cope with misery and materialism? As for wanting what you haven't got, which is basically what materialism to me means, if it's something that you don't actually need, forget about it. Don't give it a thought. And if it's something that you do need, pray about it, and I'm sure that you will get it. Give your problems to God, and it won't seem so bad for you down here. So, when you get bombarded with all these adverts and you see all these images of perfect people, perfect lives, none of them have got anything wrong with them whatsoever. And I don't know if it's my age, but the models in these adverts, particularly for sort of cosmetic products, look as if they've only just got out of nappies. So of course the skin products will work on them, and the makeup will look divine, and the clothes will look amazing, and all these things are combined, even at a sort of subliminal level, to make you feel inadequate and that you need something you haven't got or you can't have. I mean, because there we come to what we do have. And what we do have is a hope for our health, for the health of those close to us. We hope that we have the basics of life. If we have warmth and shelter and food and refreshment and some clothes to put on, and we have friendships, a loved one, perhaps partner, children, of course, we can't forget them, and animal companions. Who could actually really need any more than that? If you haven't got any of those, then one can only reiterate that you give your problem or problems to the Almighty, that you make sure that you ask for the things you need, and if it's friendship and companionship, somebody to come your way who you would like to spend time with, to partner with, and so on and so forth, ask them upstairs, because they will sort something out. This I know to be true. So there you are, you see. So one of the things to dispense with misery is to be cheerful and to rise above it all. And one of the things to dispense with the onslaught of materialism is to actually decide that you don't really want anything else other than what you've got. and you'll be surprised at how good that feels. And don't worry, by the way, about what other people see and what other people perceive you to be living like or with or whatever. Just be yourself and just be happy in that. Now, I then mentioned that I was thinking about the problem of places of worship being empty and spiritualist gathering places, no-go areas. Well, that's an awful thing, isn't it? Because all those places that people have gone and worshipped in over the centuries, maybe even thousands of years, they actually contain the sort of the vibrations of that goodness. So that's why when you walk into somewhere like a church or a synagogue or a temple, a mosque even, a Hindu temple, the feeling is something intangible. There's a peacefulness. And this, I believe, comes from all the energies that have been sent out from those places over all that time, that they've acted like a sort of a capsule of spiritual energy, and that peacefulness is what people seek, and you can literally feel it when you walk into those places. And of course, that's something that is not available to us in this current, dare I say, climate of the pandemic. So somehow or other, we have to make the place that we are in somehow more peaceful and have some kind of calming effect upon us and everybody around us. And that's not always easy. But the other aspect of that is that, of course, where places like the spiritualist churches and meeting places were used for development circles, for giving spiritualist services with mediumship, those things are now relegated to social media and internet platforms, like we're talking now. So instead of you having to schlep to go and see me talk somewhere and give a demonstration of mediumship or whatever, you are wherever you are, and I am here. So, it's not always really a good thing, because human beings need company. We are social creatures. Dare I say it, we are pack animals. We don't particularly like a solitary existence, and this is not what, basically, as far as I can make out, it's not what we were created for, to have a solitary existence. So it is very difficult at this time for everybody, and this has had an impact, I think, on people's development as mediums, for instance, because spiritualism needs its mediums. And really, we need quite good mediums. And by good, I mean people who have learned how to maintain, how to create and maintain a contact with a spirit communicator from the higher realms, to be able to contact and continue to have that contact, so that they can relay communication, adequate communication from individuals in the realms of spirit who want to relay information and messages back to their loved ones left down here. And the spiritualist churches and their development circles are wonderful places, because they take people along at a proper rate. People go regularly. It's tied up with their religious belief and involvement, so it has a very spiritual aspect to it. The cost of that development is always within the bounds of reasonableness, and if anybody can't afford, they can always go to the person who leads the circle or the church and ask if something can be done. Perhaps they could pay a small amount or whatever, but and I'm sure that would be looked at kindly. But so the thing is that we don't have that at the moment. What we do have, of course, is people online who are offering their services, and some of them are very, very good indeed. And you can tell that, I think, by looking at their where they come from. You know, if they are backed up by spiritualist churches, if they are members of spiritualist churches and organisations, and you can trust those organisations and those churches and groups, then you know that you're in the right place to learn something that will benefit you ultimately as well. Because we're spiritualists, we want people to come into this movement and stay in this movement, and some of them to become mediums themselves. And this is offered, of course, through the various organisations. But now, willy-nilly, everybody, you know, is getting into it. And what we do have, I've noticed, is that we have developing mediums who are putting it out there, but their evidence may be a bit wobbly. Their presentation may equally be a bit wobbly. You know, not having at the moment the facilities for those platform coaching evenings that we used to have, say, for instance, at Wimbledon, and other churches used to have that, Lewisham, you know, where people are coached through their platform presentation, where they've achieved a certain level of ability with contacting the discarnate realms and relaying messages through, and then they are expected to take to usually a church platform or a centre platform, and actually work appropriately and accordingly, giving messages to recipients in the congregation as part of a spiritualist service, or as a presentation of a demonstration of mediumship that usually raises funds for the church or meeting place. Now, the thing is this, that you know, I mentioned before about materialism. What I've noticed is that there are lots of people now charging a lot of money for offering readings, and you know, I'm not sure if that's justified by some people who perhaps aren't of the essence, and I suppose we have to look at the fact that we can't regulate that. What we can do is, every time we can, is perhaps tell people to look on you know, spiritualist church sites, because all the churches, not all of them, but most of them, are actually offering social media broadcasts by this, like StreamYard or Zoom or something else, and people can actually participate in a spiritualist service and actually receive, you know, pretty good messages from spirit, from the mediums that serve those churches, just in fact the same way as if they had to tootle along to their local service of a Sunday, Thursday, Monday, or whatever. You know, every day of the week is a divine service day for spiritualists, and go and enjoy that. So I do recommend that, by the way, and that's an easy one. You can sit and you can be in your pajamas and sit and watch a jolly good spiritualist service. There's Thundersley, there's the Guiding Light, there's Pastures Green, there's Littleport Christian Spiritualists. I must plug my own church there. And there are many, many churches of all denominations, all kinds. There are loads and loads of Spiritualist National Union churches that are offering services, and all of the churches, a lot of the churches, are also offering development groups and things like that. And of course, if you're able to part with some money in their direction, that's very good, and you'll know that it's going to a good cause. So there you are. So I've also mentioned that I was going to talk about what impact is the proliferation of psychics on social media and the internet having on spiritualism and its generally agreed mediumship standards? Well, that's always been a bête noire of spiritualism. You know, right from the beginning, people said, "Oh, of course, you know, the mediums aren't as good as they were." Well, like when it first started 2 weeks ago, you know, oh, well, they're not as good as the Fox sisters. You can just imagine them saying that in America, can't you? In 1848, just after, say, you know, spiritualism itself and the Fox sisters, of course, as we know, actually started in March 1848. And then probably by June 1848, there were people saying, oh, well, you know, Mattering, well, of course, going to see that medium there, they're not as good as the Foxes, you know, and stuff like that. Well, everybody works in a different way. And we have to accept that. That's part of the development of mediumship. Those in the world of spirit who help our development work with what they've got, the raw material. So we're all different, as we know. So we all have a different kind of take on mediumship. But there are some basics that we have to adhere to. Now, psychics, you'll notice, I mentioned the proliferation of psychics. Well, you know, everybody has to be psychic in order to develop their mediumship, which is what I say is further on from that, or further up. But not all psychics are mediums by any means. And psychic really means that is of the physical energies and those gut responses, you know, when you walk into a room and you think, oh, I don't like it here, that's your psychic self operating. Take that a few stages on, and it can feel as if you're actually getting some kind of information. You can get a lot of information on a psychic level from that person's energy, but you're not getting it from spirit. Spirit comes in from a different wavelength. And what we do in development, in spiritualist development circles and groups, is we learn to identify the difference, the dividing line between our physical self and our psychic responses and our spiritual aspect. And our and there's Rosie, shush, 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 shush. She's very excited because the post has been, and they love the post. They like to have a little chew on that if they can. So I'm just calming her down. Now, that's the other thing, you see. We learn to be healers. Well, everybody is a healer. But, you know, every mother that lays a hand on a child's forehead is giving healing. But what I've done, I'm stroking Rosie's head, you see it off camera, and hoping that them upstairs are giving her a little bit of healing there and telling her to be quiet in doggy language, which is, of course, very exclusive language. There, and hoping that she's fine now. So there we are, you see. Now, yes, we learn to give healing as well. That's another aspect of our spirituality that we can develop under the guidance of spiritualist meeting places and churches. Now, the other thing is that established churches also offer various courses now which verge on the spiritual. While they will never accept us and our practices, there are lots of them who actually do practice very similar things to us, and meditation, of course, is part of that. So I was going to consider a spiritualist perspective plus some meditation and prayer. Well, everything that I have is of a spiritualist perspective, of course, because that's what I am, and very glad I am to be a spiritualist. I came into spiritualism itself quite late in life, but we always used to say, well, you have to live a lot first before you can actually be a decent medium. I think even young people can say sometimes that they've lived a lot, especially in these awful times for them, when school is disrupted and learning is willy-nilly. And I can't imagine, I know I won't say too much about one of my grandchildren, but I know that he's in his room doing his homework, and sometimes he pops up on his channel. And I'm sure that he's going to be very popular as he gets older, and quite a celebrity. But he's doing that while his parents think he is studying, and you can multiply that probably by millions. So there is a problem for youngsters because of this awful regime, and one wonders how they're going to refer to that when they're adults, and what they will have learned from their awful experiences with this pandemic. That those of us who were born a long time before all these all these things are brought in can only wonder at how they're managing. So perhaps there ought to be meditation for youngsters that can actually be undertaken safely and in a proper place soon. So I did say there'd be some meditation and prayer. And what I ought to do is have a look at the screen and see if there's any. Oh dear, hello. Good morning to everybody. Oh, yes, well, we're all managing. Oh, Michael, just play more cricket, Lynn. I won't say how old I am, not out yet. Are you, Michael? Bless you. And, this is something else. By the way, it's not a cricket meditation, although perhaps I should attempt that. But there is a skating meditation. There's a meditation that I've done that involves taking you out onto the ice and skating. And that's on YouTube, and I think it's also on my page probably. So if you want to access that, just put Rev Lyn and skating, I suppose, meditation, and it's on YouTube, Lynn Gibb-de. So there you are. You see, so in a way, I suppose, I would like to say that I'm God's advocate, not the devil's advocate. And, about online learning, because I also have put on a lot of videos hoping to help people develop their own spiritual abilities, their mediumship and their healing. And there's lots of those are on YouTube. The other thing, of course, is I must say that they are all free, of course, which is also a bonus. And I was shocked to see how much people charge sometimes for such things. And we all have to live, don't we? We need some material goods in order to live. But we've come a long way from the old, I'll give you, 6 eggs and you give me a pound of flour situation. But at the same time, we do need to consider that some money has to change hands at some point. But it is really nice if you can get it for free. As for meditation, if you would like, let's see, how long have I been chatting for, I wonder, she said, looking wonderingly at the clock. Is there a clock somewhere? Oh, yes, it is. 29 minutes. If you're still awake. One of the things that I miss from being in a spiritualist church and on the platform there is being able to threaten the congregation. Because, people do tend to close their eyes, and you wonder sometimes if you're up there on the platform, whether they're actually dozing off, if you've actually, acted as a soporific and they're asleep. And I must tell you this one, I was at West Norwood, invited by the then president, bless her, she's now in spirit, Tilly Hutton. And there I was demonstrating mediumship, but before that I was expected to give an address, so that I did. And in the middle of the address I heard snoring, so I stopped and I said, could somebody wake that gentleman back there who is snoring? Anyway, they tapped him and he opened his eyes. He went, no, 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 I was meditating. I thought, oh, that's a likely one. But the snoring still went on. I thought, oh, what's that? So I said, I'm so sorry, but I can hear snoring. Yes, that's my dog, he said. He had a lovely dog there who was fast asleep and snoring. The other thing is that I would say, you see, is that I would form a Eutychus group, and that was 2 or 3 of my circle members would be dotted around, of course, in the congregation, and they should spot anybody who became unconscious while asleep. And I would say that if they pointed that person out to me, I would immediately do as St. Paul did and go and throw myself upon them to revive them by giving full body healing. And that seemed to work wonders. Nobody fell asleep or dared to shut their eyes. The other thing is that if you do shut your eyes in a service, I used to say, well, if you get found out, just go, oh, amen, and people will assume you've been praying. So there we are. So, which brings me back to this meditation that I said that we'll perhaps do a little meditation. You know, meditation doesn't have to be sort of half an hour's worth or a quarter of an hour's worth or anything, really. You can meditate quietly for a few minutes, and it works wonders, you know, for the spirits. And prayer, well, the idea is perhaps to do a little prayer before you meditate at such times as we're in. And perhaps if you like, I'll, with help from my friends over there, I'll give you a little meditation that you can do. And of course, the wonder of this is that although this is live, so there you've got all the ums, ahs and coughs and all the rest of it, you can actually sort of skip things. So if you didn't want to do a meditation when you listen to this, you could always skip it. But of course, the other alternative is to turn it off altogether. I see. Oh, Matt. Oh, I'm going to show that. Now, Matt Hutton is the assistant editor of Psychic World. There. So that's ruined the meditation bit for the minute. And he is also with me on the admin team of Psychic World Facebook page, Psychic World newspaper Facebook page. It's Candy Taylor, the publishing editor, asked me if I would like to become a member of the admin team and do admin. And I said, yes, I'd love to do that. Basically, because I wrote to her and I said, well, I messaged her. But she had phoned me that day, but I thought, I was thinking about it. And I messaged her and I said, you know, there's a couple of things that I'm not too happy with about, you know, you need to really sort of reflect the fact that Psychic World is a newspaper, you know, and not just yet another, you know, handy platform on Facebook for people to flog their wares or do whatever they're doing, you know, and sort of, you know, push themselves and all the rest of it. So she asked me if I would like to admin it, and I said yes. So there you are. So Matt, I joined Matt on that, and my other dear friend, Reverend Philip Solomon, who is also with the New Christian Spiritualist Society, and we've been old friends, and he is also an admin on that. Well, I was lucky, really, to be able to say that I was part of an admin team because somebody complained to me that I was being unfair to them. But I really wasn't. But however, I was able to say, well, I'm actually only one of the admin team. There, you know, there's more than me. So I was a bit cowardly, really, because it had been my sort of feeling about it. But never mind. You know, we're all in this together, aren't we? And we want the best. We want the best for everyone. So, yes, Psychic World is a wonderful paper. Now, I just happen to have one here. Look. There's one there. And that one says, that's by Elsa Rossi. There you are. Who I believe is also a member on here, on Psychic World, that is, on the Facebook page. And we have wonderful, candy Tuesday. Oh, would you believe? Look at that. Who's Alive and Who's Dead by Matthew Hutton. There you are, Matt. Shocks all round, eh? Look, and right next door to the wonderful Arthur Findlay College at Stansted Hall, headquarters of the Spiritualist National Union, really, because Redwoods, their offices are in the grounds as well, as was Clock Cottage and the Coach House when I was there as editor of Psychic News. There, the Linwood Fellowship, that was founded by Don Galloway, and a wonderful, wonderful teaching medium, healer, and that's still going strong. That, you know what, those adverts used to be in Psychic News. Anybody who remembers Psychic News as it was, particularly when I was editor, you would have seen those adverts then. But and Philip, there you are. I hope you're not bored by this. And there's Philip there. There's Candy, right, on page 2, of course, the editor, and her father, Ray Taylor, who's now in spirit. Wonderful, wonderful spiritualist pioneer. There's Reverend Philip Solomon. And there is yours truly. And on that one, I was asking, I'll tell you what I was talking about there. Oh, clairvoyance and scrying. Let's look again at fortune telling. Oh dear, that's another hot potato in spiritualism. Should you tell fortunes? And study of beliefs. Oh, there's loads and loads. It's a wonderful, wonderful paper. And subscription details. Somebody was shocked that it was still printing because they thought it was only on the Facebook. So once I'd started doing the adminning, I sort of tried to make it. I said to Candy, I'll try and make it more like the newspaper, And people have been inquiring about subscriptions. So there's details about that on the Facebook page, Psychic World newspaper Facebook page for all that. So there. I better have a look at that. Oh, what's Tony saying there? I'll share it with you, whatever this is. So one medium who had read a really good book that he wanted to share a chapter of, but would have taken him half an hour to read aloud. So he summarised it. 40 minutes later, he was still talking. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. And Tony then says, I was completely. Well, I hope you're not too zoned out by me talking. I think I've 37 minutes there. Tony, you must be psychic. Nearly 40 minutes there. And don't forget, I could give you remote full body healing. So be careful. Do not zone out altogether on this. Now, right. Anybody else there? Well, it's really nice to see everybody commenting and so on there. So, as we used to say, talk among yourselves for a minute. In the old days, I used to say, well, if you get a bit fed up with my demonstration of mediumship, I can always do a tap dance if I don't get anything. Now, that meditation, I will ask them if they will give me a little meditation for you. We'll meditate. Yes, thank you very much. We're going to meditate. See, I don't do anything without spirit, them in spirit. And, my special guide is behind me, over my shoulder there. So you can imagine that she's staring over my shoulder right now. And the healing hands that belong to her as well. That plaque is there too. And various bits and bobs. Now then, they're saying to me, yes, yes, yes. We're going to do a meditation on Mother Julian, as she was called, Dame Julian, Saint Julian of Norwich, who was an anchoress, an anchorite. She was basically a hermit, a recluse. She was in what they called a cell in the church where, she lived for many, many years, praying, meditating, helping people, answering their questions, all spiritual questions, everything else. And she was talking about materialism. She lived in a single cell in this church, and her food and drink and so on was given to her through an aperture, and that's how she lived, and helped, I'm sure, Many, many, many people. Now, so they've said to me, I always get told, they said to me that we'll do a meditation on all is well, all shall be well, and all manner of things will be well. So we'll close our eyes, we'll send up our little thoughts. We say, dear God, dear Lord, please be with us right now. Make your presence felt. Give comfort and healing to all those who are in need. Comfort and healing for me too, please. We all suffer at this time. We ask that all suffering in this world be alleviated, dear Lord, in your good time. And now we will, still with our eyes closed, imagine that we are in a beautiful cavern. It's beautiful. So all our surroundings have changed. Wherever we have been, wherever we are in the physical, now in the spiritual, in our mind, we are in this beautiful cavern. It has coloured rocks, lovely rays of lights, beautiful soft light, and there's someone sitting at the back there looking very regal and pleasant and welcoming. And I think we can go towards that person and we can ask them what we really want to happen for us and for our loved ones. We can walk towards that person. And this can be your guide, can be a loved one who's in spirit. And as you walk up to them, you say, thank you so much for coming to see me. And I would like to ask, and then you can ask anything you like. Ask for healing for somebody who's close to you. Ask for something nice to happen for somebody. And of course ask that this awful virus be defeated. And all the time there's this beautiful feeling of peacefulness and calm. And outside of the space that you're in, you can hear sort of the lapping of waves, and there must be a sea outside, some kind of spiritual sea. And this beautiful place, it's like a dome-shaped place where you are. There you are, it's just lovely. And then you hear a tinkling of bells, a tinkling of bells. And you can hear a choir, and people are singing, all will be well, and all manner of things shall be well, and all will be well. And then you thank the person that you've been speaking with, and you walk back. Know that very soon you are going to be back, just with your physical self in your physical space. And when you realise that, you open your eyes and say thank you. There. So I hope that you enjoyed that. Have a look and see. I'm not sure. Oh, right. Hopefully, there's no comment because you've all been into the zone with me, and I hope that's been helpful to you. Well, there you are, you see. That didn't take very long. I think that's probably just very few minutes. Time is relative, as Einstein was heard to say. And, it could have been the space of hours that we were there, but it was just a few minutes. So it was basically time out. So to use a sporting allusion, and sometimes I think they should have time out in association football matches too, as well as hockey and bandy. So I think we've come to the end of our little chat today. I'm very pleased that you who are here. It's very kind. Yeah. May I put? Perhaps I'll put Margaret's comment up because perhaps people. I'm very glad. Very glad, Margaret. I think that sometimes people who are not used to spiritual things would feel perhaps a little embarrassed to admit that they took part in anything like a meditation or something like that. But really, it's such a good way to feel better. And we have to find proper ways of feeling better, not to go out and buy things that we don't really need or drink alcohol to excess. I really have to remember that St. Augustine said nothing too much, everything in moderation. But personally, sometimes we can't always manage moderation. Human beings are what they are. So sometimes we prefer to just cut things out altogether rather than attempt any kind of moderation. I know when I was trying to give up smoking, I couldn't do it, and I read all sorts of papers on it, and it did say that it's impossible. Either you stop or you carry on. So I stopped, which was very difficult at the time, I might say, but it was two things. I thought I have to put something else in its place, and I want to be able to skate as long as I can, and if I keep smoking, I won't be able to. I knew that, so I stopped, and it was very hard for a few weeks, but the very thought of having a cigarette now is quite bewildering. I wonder why on earth people do it. And of course, what we have for free still is fresh air. We have the air for our lungs, and it's so important now, even more important now than ever. And I do wish you all the very, very best. I hope that you've enjoyed having this little chat. Thank you so much for taking time out to join me, because Corinne, Paul, there's no sports. When I walk, I keep my mind going. When summer comes, I've got a little puck. I can go with just one thing. I want to ask, how many laps was it speed skating? Was it 11 or 13 for a mile? Right, okay. Paul, it was round the rink, right? You'd have to skate round the rink 13 times for the mile. And when it became a 1500 meters instead of the mile, 500 was 4.5 laps. So 1,000, work it out, was 9 laps. And the 1500, I think, was, good gracious me, 111.12 meters. Work it out. Shows you how long ago I was racing. But if you were just pottering around the rink chatting, which we often used to do, about 12 laps to the mile. So certainly we've all done a few miles, Paul. And of course, you're on that old video of 1981 that I could put up sometimes. So lots of love to you, and I would like to wish you all well, and wish you every blessing, and that you stay well, and your friends, your families, and I'll talk to you again at some point hopefully in the near future. And don't forget, there's the Psychic World Facebook page to look at, which is very nice. It reflects the paper. And also I have the New Christian Spiritualist Society Facebook page and a website. And those of you who are skating aficionados, there's Little Port, the home of ice Speed Skating and Bandy, and the Ice Stadium Project, and the Great Britain Bandy Association pages. So, you know, we're spoiled for choice, aren't we? So I'll say God bless to you, and switch up now. Suzanne, you know, I'm so grateful that I still have time, you know, time down here, because, you know, one of the things we all get to know about when we're getting older is we're staring our mortality in the face, and we're looking at our next journey, you know. And although none of us know exactly when, by the time you get to be old, you know that the time is really special. So I'm glad to be able to speak with you and be given the time down here, and try and make best use of it that I can. So I say God bless you again, and speak to you soon. And of course, you know, I'm available on you know, this messenger thing, and WhatsApp, and haven't got to grips with Instagram yet, or any of those other things. Perhaps they're just for the young. But yeah, so I wish you all well, and I hope that all those who are sick and suffering in whatever way get relief from that as soon as they possibly can, and ask the dear Lord to look after all of us. Amen.